November 6th, 2023. A company files for bankruptcy. That alone would not be news. Companies file for bankruptcy every single day. Except 3 years earlier, this exact company was worth $47 billion. Somewhere between those two dates, $47 billion did not evaporate. It was killed. I am not talking about a slow decline. I mean there is a specific, identifiable moment this company's fate was sealed. Everyone thinks they already know who did it. I went through the case file myself. They are wrong. Ask anyone what killed WeWork and you will get the same 4 answers. Suspect 1, the CEO, Adam Neumann. The tequila shots, the surfing retreats, trademarking his own company's name and selling it back to them for $5.9 million? An easy villain. Suspect 2, SoftBank, the Japanese conglomerate that handed him blank checks with almost no oversight. Suspect 3, the pandemic. Empty offices, dead demand, bad timing. Suspect 4, the failed IPO, the moment the public finally saw the books and panicked. Here's the problem with all 4 of these. Motive is not a murder weapon. Every one of these stories tells you who to be angry at. None of them tell you how $47 billion actually disappeared. Real investigations do not start with a villain. They start with the body and work backward. Before we get to the evidence, you need to understand the alibi the company gave, because for years, everyone believed it. WeWork's story was simple. Sign long leases on big, boring office buildings, spend big on design, slice the space into desks, rent those desks out month to month at a massive premium to startups and freelancers who wanted the vibe without the commitment. On paper, that looked like a tech company. High growth, recurring revenue, a community nobody could quite define, but everyone wanted to believe in. SoftBank poured in billions. The valuation went vertical. But here's what nobody was checking while the lighting was this good. Underneath the exposed brick, a mathematical device was already armed. It just hadn't gone off yet. Let's open the actual file, not a hypothetical, the real mechanics of a single floor in a single building. Exhibit A, the lease. WeWork signs 15 years. Fixed cost is $100,000 a month, guaranteed to the landlord no matter what happens next. Exhibit B, the build-out. $500,000 upfront on design and furniture aimed at making the space feel like a tech company, not a sublet. Exhibit C, the sublease income. At 90% occupancy, they're renting those same desks out for $150,000 a month, 50% gross margin. On paper, this is a printing press. For 2 years, this looks like genius. Then comes year 3. A downturn hits. Corporate clients start downsizing. Occupancy drops from 90% to 75%. Now watch what happens, because this is the part every explainer skips past too fast to matter. WeWork's cost did not move. They still owe the landlord exactly $100,000 a month with built-in rent escalations, whether the desks are full or empty. Revenue falls to $110,000. That 50% margin doesn't shrink, it vanishes in a single quarter. And that $500,000 build-out? In a tech pitch deck, that gets called customer acquisition and written off as growth. In real estate, it's called a sunk cost, and it has to be paid back whether or not a single desk is ever filled again. The faster this company grew, the faster it was bleeding. Growth was not the cure, growth was the wound. So if the math was this broken this early, how did nobody notice for years? Because the company didn't hide the losses, they renamed them. Buried in the 2019 IPO filing, financial analysts found a metric that doesn't exist anywhere in accounting standards, not GAAP, not anywhere. WeWork invented it themselves and gave it a name that sounded official: Community Adjusted EBITDA. Here's what it actually did. Take the real losses, then subtract the cost of marketing, subtract the cost of signing new leases, subtract almost everything that made the company grow. It's the financial equivalent of a restaurant claiming record profits as long as you don't count the food or the rent or the staff. This was not an accounting shortcut. This was the forged alibi, the one piece of evidence built specifically to make a leveraged real estate bet look like a software company, right until someone outside the company finally read the fine print. Now here's the twist most people miss completely, including most of the people who have already made a video about this. Everyone assumes the crime happened in 2019, the moment the S1 leaked and the IPO collapsed. It didn't. That's just when the body was found. The actual moment this company's fate was locked in was not a scandal. It was not a boardroom decision. It was the day WeWork signed its first 15-year lease, years earlier, before Adam Neumann's antics made headlines, before SoftBank wrote a single check, before anyone had heard of a pandemic. That's the moment the fixed liability and the flexible revenue got permanently mismatched. Every lease signed after that was not growth, it was the same trap, copy-pasted at a larger scale, faster. Neumann didn't pull the trigger, SoftBank didn't pull the trigger, COVID didn't pull the trigger. They all showed up after the weapon was already loaded, and every one of them, without knowing it, kept pulling triggers that had been aimed since day one. So, case closed. Verdict, not a rogue CEO, not a bad investor, not bad luck. The killer was arithmetic, and it had been standing in the room since the very first lease was signed. Here's what that means for you if you ever look at a company that says it's disrupting a physical industry with a tech-enabled model. Ask one question before you ask anything else. Who's holding the fixed liability and who's holding the flexible revenue? Because revenue is vanity, profit is sanity, but a fixed cost with no exit is a signed confession. You just have to know where to look for it. Before you go, which suspect did you think it did it before this video? Neumann, SoftBank, the pandemic? Tell me in the comments. I'll read the wrong answers.